evening and welcome to Business Today. I'm Jerome Paul Sonko with Winnie Buyinza and Akauchi on Sign Language. We're coming to you live from Plot 42, Nile Avenue. It is a good evening and let's get into our stories tonight. We start with the budget preparations for the financial year 2023-2024. The National Budget Strategy process for the national financial year for 2023-2024 has been presented by the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. The Prime Minister of Uganda, Right Honourable Robinah Nabbanja, spoke on behalf of His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, who was away in Kenya for the inauguration of William Ruto. She emphasized that the budget should prioritize the resources to address security, climate change, and the management of food security to offset economic repercussions, among others. This and more, as Samuel Kirimunda reports.
The budget strategy for financial year 2023-2024 has been presented by Honorable Matia Kasaija, the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. The government has stated that it will continue to refocus the budget and reduce public spending in the financial year 2023-2024. The budget will restore economic resilience, which is presently under a lot of stress as a result of COVID-19 problems and an increase in commodity prices.
The start of the national consulting process on the planning and the budgeting process for financial year 2023-2024. As embedded in both the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda and the Public Finance Management Act 2015 as amended. This will be followed by the local government regional consultative meetings scheduled to take place from 19 September to 7th October this year.
The focus for the national budget for financial year 2023-2024 is full monetization of the economy through commercial agriculture, industrialization, increasing and widening services, digital transformation and market access. Right Honorable Robinah Nabbanja, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Uganda, has emphasized that the government should only take out loans for high-value projects that will help the nation achieve middle-income status in accordance with Vision 2040.
Should focus on prioritizing the following. 1. Addressing security and good governance. 2. Climate change and management of food security. 3. Implementation of the Paris development model. 4. Consolidating infrastructure development to reduce the cost of doing business in this country.
In order to accelerate the transition from the COVID-19 to the money economy, Matia Kasaija further reassured the nation that external borrowing would be used for the East African railways, oil and gas sectors. Samuel Kirimunda, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now, still on the preparations for the fiscal year 2023-2024, a number of stakeholders have given their advice on how to create strategic initiatives that will help Uganda's economy resume its pre-pandemic development trajectory. Now, this one is by Rona Nahabwe.
The overall goal of the financial year 2023-2024 budget strategy is to maintain Uganda's socio-economic reform programs while getting the economy back on the medium-term growth path 6 to 7% per year. As partners in the national budget, the Uganda Local Governments Association, Advocates for Development and Environment, Private Sector Foundation Uganda, and the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group provided some recommendations.
National Budget Conference of Financial Year 2023-2024 advocated for a consultative process that required several stakeholders to be on board. We're looking at stakeholders like CSBAG, PSFU, ACORD, and the Uganda Local Governments Association. Now, CSBAG advocated for transparency on tax exemptions. ACORD advocated for operationalization of the Climate Change Fund. And PSFU, that is a private sector foundation in Uganda, advocated for engagement and increased sector development in areas of creative arts, entertainment and sports. He also engaged the Honorable Prime Minister about how such sectors are contributing largely to the country's GDP in the West African countries. The Uganda Local Governments Association advocated for input and help in improving service delivery, that is improvement of the Uganda Road Fund, as well as the transport sector to create and help the service delivery in the country. We have more.
In the just concluded high-growth economic forum, we got examples of how taxes can actually be leveraged. One was where we received an invoice from the exporting country by the time the invoice arrives at our border, the invoice is half the price. We feel that there should be strengthened in that, especially in automation, but the Prime Minister will be investing in Uganda to work with other revenue administrative units of other countries who will help in ensuring that this kind of effect doesn't take place.
Tax to do with climate change financing. Uganda is a nature-based economy. We have a comparative advantage in the agriculture sector. We can produce without a lot of investment. But because of climate change, the way we have degraded the environment, poor farming systems, less investment in this sector. Now climate change has come, and last year we experienced the drought. That's climate change. We've seen crises in Bududa, and this is the wake-up call. I think we should wait for the situation of Pakistan, where the country will be brought to its knees. So what are we recommending? We think that the government should prioritize investment in climate change. There is a climate change law, and it gives a path. So we recommend that the government operationalizes the climate fund and operationalizes it.
Among other problems, the ED Private Sector Foundation Uganda said the government has propensity for enacting business laws slowly. Says they feel undercut since monies are brought in but are not used because executives are unable to carry out
Enactment of business laws. And this has slowed down on a lot of the operating environment that is helping to sustain and grow the business compared to our neighbors in the region. We would like to commend Parliament at this point in time for passing the local content bill, and would like to request that the Cabinet, through you, Right Honourable Prime Minister, accedes to the outcome of that document that will help.
The head of local government associations in Uganda claims they feel undercut since monies are brought in but are instead taken back since executives feel they are incapable of carrying out certain tasks.
As local government, and yet we receive a miserable percentage of the national budget allocation to our local governments. Our demand, therefore, is that these monies that are kept in the ministries, departments, and agencies should be sent to the local governments that are charged with the mandate of giving the much desired services to our people. The reason for which we exist as local government in this country is none other than service delivery. And therefore, when we are unable to deliver on the much needed services to our people, Right Honourable, we become irrelevant.
Rona Nahabwe, Business Today, Smart 24 TV.
All right, now let's head to Ntungamo, as the Ntungamo municipality may find it difficult in recovering 7.5 billion of the 12.5 billion shillings that were returned to the National Treasury. According to the Uganda Support to Municipal Infrastructure Program, $12.5 billion was allocated for road infrastructure projects but could not be absorbed in time, yet the project still has just 8 months left to run. Now, after visiting the western region of Uganda, our reporter Pedersen Mumbere covered this report for us.
Ntungamo district is part of the municipal council across the country that is implementing the $360 million infrastructure initiatives funded by the World Bank. However, only 5 million of the 12.5 billion shillings allotted for road infrastructure projects have been used. The remaining 7.5 billion have been transferred back to the National Treasury due to poor progress of the road civil works. This information was made public during a field assessment of the various roads being constructed in Ntungamo municipality. A thorough audit of the Municipal Council should be conducted, according to Godfrey Muchunguzi, the resident commissioner in Tunkamo district, in order to identify these issues.
There are certain things I looked at, it was as if it is, instead of fiscal accountability, it was just like a bonanza. I don't want to rush to conclusions, but what I'm sure of, there is something wrong here, and which must be cleaned. Recently, I overheard some people saying, there are diseases, you should not be concerned about the other one. As long as you are using government money, as long as that money is not from your pocket or your father's bank account, be sure the presidency must question.
Dr. Isaac Mutenyo, the USMID AF program coordinator, pleaded to the local authorities to have these hiccups removed immediately. The completion of these roads is expected to happen within the next year. He noted it would be extended.
There's a lot to be done. On the roads, we have seen cases where there seem to be a few encumbrances on the road, which we have advised the Municipal Council to take up urgently so that they don't have other after effects. We went to the quarry site as well, and we discovered that he has actually started production, and I think he should be in position to supply the required different aggregates on the road. So overall, there's some improvement, but there's still a lot that needs to be done by Ntungamo.
Planning ourselves on a drip and threatening to go to the intensive care, those are not good statements for us. And for us from the presidency, we shall not be part of that at least, because we have to take actions that can liberate that one. They usually say that when the patient, when the sickness persists, you take it to the real doctor. And on Monday, we shall critically scrutinize this one with the town clerk. We shall have a meeting at 10 a.m. at my office, so that we also appreciate and understand some of these technical things, so that we also know where to start from.
According to Jacob Kafreka, Mayor in Tunkamo Municipality, a new contemporary market will be built in the neighborhood as a comprehensive measure to guarantee that both locals' daily lives and commercial activities go on without a hitch.
That with our continued cooperation, we shall achieve more. I also wish to request the Ministry to also expedite the process of working on the following projects under the program as had earlier promised. They include Binyerere Road, Katahaja Road via Chief Magistrate's Court.
USMID initiative is being implemented in a context where Uganda has seen significant economic growth since 1986, a decline in poverty, and an average annual GDP growth of 8.1 in the last 6 years. USMID is making a contribution to the second National Development Plan, which has recognized infrastructure as one of the supplementary sectors for growth. Pedson Mumbere, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now we talk Citizen Voices on the taxation report. Uganda Revenue Authority, in collaboration with Twaweza Nisisi, held a session in which they analyzed a study completed over the past 2 years on how Ugandan citizens perceive business and taxes issues. One of the main conclusions is that many firms struggle to obtain capital. However, this problem may be solved by using various government initiatives like the Parish Development Model and Emyoga. Naame Mutumba has the details.
According to research by Sauti za Wananchi, a mobile phone survey found out that among Ugandans who had closed their businesses in the previous 5 years, lack of capital was cited by half of the former business owners as the main cause. Other factors include a lack of market and poor demand, which accounts for 13%, as well as high input costs, which account for 12%, and intense competition, which is at 11%, and effects of COVID-19 at 10%, and taxes and tax regulations, which account for 4%, are the main reasons given by previous business owners as to why their companies closed. Likewise, Among their top 3 campaign obstacles, access to money is mentioned by existing business owners most frequently, which accounts for 63%. Other concerns with a financial component but a stronger emphasis on high costs include accessing transportation, which accounts for 35%, the high cost of capital, which is at 30%, and procuring supplies or equipment, which account for 27%.
What we have unearthed in these findings is that the key challenge that businesses face is capital, access to capital, that to a point that for those that closed, when we ask what are some of the reasons their businesses closed, we see lower mentions of COVID-19 coming up. So the key thing is capital, cost of inputs. Those are the major challenges that businesses are facing.
The 5th most mentioned difficulty is the high expenses associated with taxes, levies and permits, which account for 17%.
Shortfalls in tax collection cannot be necessarily attributed to the Uganda Revenue Authority, but also the performance of the economy. Let's not forget that the targets for URA are set on assumptions of what the economic growth will be like in the coming year, how the businesses will perform. Now, URA has the task of actually walking into these entities, and sometimes you walk to the entity and you're able to realize that the business is not performing as predicted. So we need to put into context the shortfalls in revenue collection, that they might be generally reflecting the inability of the economy to serve the business sector, to give them the opportunities to do business, which business opportunities actually generate the tax revenues.
Despite gaps in tax collection, Ugandans nevertheless make significant contributions.
To go just by the shortfalls that the URA has reflected in its performance, it would not give the accurate picture. You need to look at the over 10% growth in revenue that we have posted in light of the COVID years in which we are performing, in which the businesses are affected. And that in itself shows on progress on how the tax administration is performing, on how the Ugandans are contributing more to the budget that runs the business of government. So yes, we performed below target at 21.6 against the 22.4 that we had or we were expected to perform at. But there was growth if you compare to the previous year, and that in itself is something to take home.
Citizens currently support statements that acknowledge the necessity for taxation significantly more than they did in late 2019. 84% of respondents, up from 79% in 2019, believe taxes are crucial to the prosperity of the nation and its economy. However, a large portion of Ugandans are still unaware of the many taxes they pay, which prevents the government from investing in the public services necessary for society and the economy to prosper.
There is low understanding of taxation among Ugandans. This starts with the tax collection body. Do Ugandans understand who URA is? What does URA do? We see that only 50% do understand that URA collects taxes. And we also see that a number of them, of Ugandans, are not aware of the taxes that are being levied on different goods and services. They are most aware of VAT. This is mentioned by 69%. The next most mentioned is at about 30%. So we see there is that gap. And also when it comes to paying of the taxes, most people say that they do pay VAT. We have lower mentions of other taxes. So that tells you something about the current tax base, that it's not really as wide as we would want it to be, that a few are bearing the burden while the rest go untaxed.
Close to half of Ugandans have owned a business at some point in the past 5 years. Among these, less than a half, which is at 21%, say their business is still operating. The most common types of currently operating businesses are in agriculture, which account for 35%, wholesale and retail trade, which are at 18%, hawking at 13%, and small services, such as salons, at 11%. Business owners are currently more positive than they were 3 years ago about the state of their own businesses. Naomi Mtumba, Business Today, Smart 24 TV.
And then today, COSASE has met the CEO of Uganda Airlines again. The Uganda Airlines management team, led by Mrs. Jennifer Bamturaki, has resumed talks with the Parliament Committee of COSASE to discuss the airline's mismanagement since its revival establishment. Let's have more of this report.
The committee was given 2 weeks by the management to get organized and return with the required paperwork, but they still showed up without enough supporting evidence for their claims.
In place, we didn't put it in place because we moved our equipment from the dust handling shed to our own shed.
So what justifies now? How
So
do
now
we
the
account
payment,
for
so
the other
this payment hasn't been made because if you notice, it is more than the 8,000. It's about 40 something. If I recall, $43,000. This payment hasn't been made yet because we don't have an agreement. So Paul and his team and procurement have been having discussions with DAS on how to handle this matter.
But earlier on you said you have some MOUs with DAS that you're going to share.
Yes, we have some MOUs with DAS because we do a lot of work with them, being our handler, and those we will share with you tomorrow.
Okay, so yes, those. Now, this particular one. So you're saying your finance team is handling. We want to know how they are handling because the time has since passed. DAS is saying you owe us this money. And
I want to join both. Looking at the response from the accounting officer. I don't know whether Jennifer understands that she's the accounting officer as we speak today. And in that respect, I don't know whether she's ready to account for what happens in the institution. When she says that, the former procurement department was suspended, that alone cannot really exonerate her from taking on her responsibility as the accounting officer. I would expect that she would be in possession of those documents and she would be able to account for whatever happens in the institution.
Since its establishment, the airline has lost more than 500 billion shillings, and the majority of those losses, according to the committee's chairperson, Honorable Joel Senyonyi, are attributable to the management's failure to adhere to procurement regulations.
There are so many procurement challenges within Uganda Airlines. You find that equipment worth billions of shillings is bought, they do not follow procurement guidelines. In many cases, because the Auditor General clearly states he did not see this equipment, most of it, Even the documents showing that this equipment was bought and so on, they were not available. So that for us causes us to smell a rat. That's how theft gets to happen, yeah? Because if you procured things, you've not followed the procurement guidelines, and then the equipment does not exist, the Auditor General hasn't seen it, the documents pertaining to the equipment do not exist. No wonder the losses of Uganda Airlines are high, over 500 billion shillings to date. Any company, of course, can make losses, yeah, for many different reasons, especially when it is starting out. But if part of the losses are attributable to these procurement issues, you're saying you bought equipment, it does not exist, there are no documents to show that you actually bought this equipment and all of that, it's very problematic, yeah? But we'll keep digging out all these issues, we'll keep exposing all the rot, because ultimately, Uganda Airlines must be able to function the right way because the taxpayer injects a lot of money therein.
Senyonyi claims that the CEO, Mrs. Bamturaki, asked for money to travel last year and received over 50 million shillings per diem, but the trip never took place and that money was never reimbursed.
So one of the issues we have established is that Jennifer Bamturaki, last year when she was still acting CEO, she put in a requisition to travel. To go and visit stations of Uganda Airlines, where their country offices are in different countries. And she was given per diem of up to about 50 million Uganda shillings. But then she did not travel to these destinations, okay? Challenge is she did not refund the money because if you get money, it's meant to do a certain piece of work and you don't do that piece of work. Then refund the money, and you saw I kept asking her, so what happened? Why didn't you refund the money? She was mute. Clearly because the records we have show she did not travel, which is problematic. That is theft. If you get money and it's meant to do a certain job and you don't do the job, refund the money. Otherwise then you become a thief. You can't say, let me keep it, I might have an upcoming trip. after 2 years, no, it's totally unacceptable.
The committee has requested the airline management to return tomorrow with the missing documents, particularly those that show how the airline engaged the company, Abba Veta. Additionally, he asserts the committee will not rest until it has produced its report.
Provide all those documents. Honorable Kamba listed a couple of them. Paul, I believe you wrote each of those to make sure you avail them all tomorrow.
Business Today is heading into a break, but we shall return immediately with more from your daily report.